But let's tweak it even more. For the office space, I'll create two subsections, the open space and the individual space. Now I just have to drag the items to the right place. Next, I don't need the client to know the price of bolts, for example, so I'll just hide the price of the installation section. And I'll also hide the composition of the office supplies, because the detailed lines will just clutter the quote. But I'll write a note that includes the important elements. All that's left to do is add the shipping costs, which are calculated automatically based on my product's weight. Now let's print the quote and review it with my client. It's structured, clear, and tailored exactly the way I want. The client accepts our offer, and I generate a down payment of 20% and send him the link. On his customer portal, everything is well displayed, and he can confirm his down payment with his preferred payment method. And once it's done, the sales order is automatically confirmed, and his down payment has already been taken into account. To work on this project, we need to order some lamps. The forecast report has been completely redesigned, giving me a much clearer overview. Right away, I can see how long it takes to replenish my product. I can collapse or expand sections to focus only on what matters. I see reserved and forecasted units linked to purchase orders, the outgoing units tied, and the sales orders they're tied to, as well as their location. With a click, I can unreserve or reserve products again. And in the delivery date column, I spot which items are on time and which ones are late. For now, let's just replenish these lamps. I'll also create a replenishment rule so I don't have to update manually each time. By default, it scans up to 365 days, but for us, 90 days is more realistic. This way, we see what we'll need in the next couple of months, not just at the last minute. And the deadline column shows us when we should order to avoid shortages. The lamps should be handled with care when they arrive. I'll add it as a description of the product. This way our operators know that the packages are fragile when they store them. Okay, so we've received a full pallet of lamps, but I only need one box from it. I just choose to move a pack, and here I can see the list of packages, their location, and what they contain. I just choose a box and validate the transfer to my shelf. And if I wanted to move a box from one pallet to another, I just click Put in Pack, select the package type, and its new destination. Odoo tracks everything automatically, so nothing gets lost. In the meantime, let's check on Janet, our traveling saleswoman. She's at a design convention in Milan and scans the business card of a potential lead. The record instantly appears in Odoo. Odoo CRM now also uses AI. For this lead, it looks like my closing chances are very low, but the AI's suggestions show me what to improve. The phone number is invalid, so we'll just fix it. And now, my probability to close this deal just went up. This is just one of the factors the AI considers, and you can immediately see which ones boost your chances of closing the deal and which ones hold you back. If Janet is out of office, another colleague can easily take over because the AI instantly summarizes past chats and is even capable of reading the attachments. Then, it helps write the perfect client reply. Okay, so with a business comes a lot of documents to sort in the right files. I just use AI prompts to organize all of my documents. I describe my sorting rules based on my needs, and Odoo takes care of it instantly. So, when I upload new documents, they are immediately sorted where they should be. Contracts go into the right folder, so do insurance documents. And even better, activities are automatically created for the right assignee. And whenever the clients send me an email with receipts or invoices directly in the email body, Odoo converts them into PDFs automatically so I can preview, store, and search them easily in documents. Another great thing is that I can open and preview any types of files on documents, such as HTML, PDF, TXT, XML, and a bunch of other file types. And I can easily add files from the Documents app anywhere on Odoo using the / command. Finally, these quick action buttons are really handy. I can share the document, download it, rename it, and see more info with one click. Let's make sure our finances are in order. Each year, I submit an audit report. This normally takes quite a long time, but with Odoo's new audit report creator, it's done in a matter of minutes. I just name the report, specify the dates of the journal I want included, and we're good to go. There's a whole list of pre-made legal texts I can choose to include, all based on dynamic texts. My colleagues and I can then sign the report easily in different places, and I can add extra sign fields wherever needed. All important accounting reports are included, and if I need to showcase specific results, I can just change the filters and options on the reports. The audit report also comes with a list of template annexes, and I can add any page I want. Finally, I can add the extra documents directly from the Documents app. All that's left to do is print out the report, and the whole PDF is created and downloaded in seconds. Now, let's take care of our tax return. With this new menu, Odoo shows exactly what needs to be filed and when. It's adapted to local requirements across different countries, and each return type is listed with its deadline and status, so I always know what's due. And look at this new bank reconciliation menu. Odoo already reconciles most of the transactions automatically with existing invoices and bills based on the partner, label, and amount. For anything that isn't handled automatically, I just use the action buttons to reconcile the transaction. Set account, for example, lets me write off the amount to any account. And as I'm not an accountant, these descriptions help me select the correct account. I'd still like my accountant to take a look at this transaction though, so I'll ask her to review it. On her side, she can take a quick look with the filters and mark it as reviewed once it's done. If a bank statement processed through OCR has incorrect balances, I can manually correct the starting and ending balance by clicking on the fields and then on the appropriate number in the PDF. To simplify tax mapping, it has been moved from fiscal positions to the tax record itself. Simply choose which fiscal positions the change applies to and which taxes this one replaces. Finally, an enterprise user with only the invoicing app installed has access to accounting and partner reports, making financial management more comprehensive. And I can easily follow up on payments by sending reminders to customers with outstanding balances, even through WhatsApp. On to our signing process. The interface has a sleek new design. It's easier to configure multiple signers directly within the document. And we can just copy-paste any field to save time and keep things consistent. When I need several documents signed by a client, I just upload them all at once. Odoo puts them together in a single envelope where I can arrange the order and add the required fields. Then I click Send, and my client receives one document to review and sign everything in one go. For this client, let's create a project. We'll just select one of the templates we made, adapt the title, and just like that, the right tasks are added automatically, with the right stages and right people assigned to them. And here's another AI feature you'll like. You can create all the automations you need, choose the action type, pick the field you want, and add your customized prompt with all the necessary information. Here we want our opportunities to be assigned automatically to the right expert. And just like that, we say goodbye to manual assigning. And the best part? You can do this for any action in your workflow. Let's go to the calendar view of our project. Here we see the tasks that still need to be scheduled. We can just drag and drop on the correct day, and there you go. Finally, our colleagues can start working on this project. They can easily log in multiple timesheets by setting up the details and adding the timesheets to any day they like. There's an issue with this accounting report. I'll call Anita to solve it. With Odoo's new VoIP design, I see clearly my recent calls, my contacts, the quick action buttons, and my planned activities for today. When calling, I have extra options such as transferring and holding the call. Another AI feature that's really useful is the recording option. Odoo listens, transcribes, and even translates the conversation in real time. Better yet, it generates a clear, structured summary for me. I have a question for Mark, but I see he's away. No worries, I'll just mention the whole accounting group. I don't need anyone in particular to handle this. I also have a data security question, but for that, I'll just consult our AI agent. I can ask a question, and it will provide an answer based on the sources I've provided. I can even have it schedule a meeting or perform other actions automatically. The list of possibilities is limitless. Okay, the operational side is taken care of. Now let's look at our marketing. We have an incredible website made with Odoo 19. The new catalog block lets me quickly show what we have in store. I can choose from a variety of beautifully crafted templates, each designed by professional web designers to fit different styles and needs. Whether I'm showing off my full collection or just the best sellers, there's always a template ready to match my style. And look at these beautiful new shop page templates. Sleek and stylish, they showcase my product in the best possible way. And visitors can just hover over the cart of a product and preview its attributes in real life, like size, color, and material. Product pages have also gotten an upgrade. Odoo provides many new templates that I can fine-tune with the editor on the front end, like adding images to variants, for example. Here I showcase the different types of wood available for this sofa as pictures, making my product even clearer for my customers. Once my product page is published, it's displayed on Google. The price, ratings, and reviews significantly improve my ads and attract people to my website. I also link my catalog to social platforms and marketplaces like TikTok Shop, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, and more. And I spare valuable time by letting AI generate a compelling product description in one click, or translate my whole page instantly. No more manual translations. Of course, visitors can still contact us directly with the live chat. It's easier than ever, as conversations are directly forwarded to an operator with the right expertise. And the concurrent chat limits feature limits the number of conversations a live chat operator can handle at the same time, keeping my team from feeling overwhelmed. When a colleague takes the chat over in the afternoon, they see all the info they need in the side panel so they can prioritize and respond faster. And then they'll send the visitor a copy of the conversation, making it easy for the client to revisit the exchange anytime and keep all the information on hand. On my side, I can track all ongoing conversations with the new live chat dashboards. So, in order to sell our products, we need to make sure our stock is kept up to date. The new purchase dashboard gives me a pulse on the company. Pending RFQs, orders awaiting approval, average on-time delivery scores for each supplier, and even upcoming expected arrivals. I can just drag and drop a sales order and it appears as a PO, complete with lines, discounts, and sections. The purchase catalog now suggests how many units I should order. I can turn this feature on or off, set the replenishment period, and choose what to base it on. It also shows me the total amount. And with one click on Add All, my purchase order is ready. If a client doesn't use Odoo, no problem. They can import the sales order in an XML format directly from the customer portal. It's lunchtime. Let's go to our store's restaurant and see how the team is doing over there. Our restaurant has 2 floors and a patio. So when a waiter takes an order, they just type in the table number instead of searching for it on the floor plan. Then they take the customer's order. To make it faster, we created several presets: dine-in, takeout, and delivery. These are handy, as I can configure options such as price lists, fiscal positions, preparation capacity, identification requirements, schedule times, and much more. Let's say someone calls to order takeout. I'll just take her order, choose the right preset, and add the day and time. In the case of a delivery, I just select an existing customer or create a new one with their delivery address. Those presets make me save loads of time, and I can create as many as I want. And talking about delivery, Odoo supports almost every platform, including Takeaway, Careem, Grubhub, Deliveroo, and many more. Let's go back to our waiter and his customers. The waiter selects Course 1 for the starter and Course 2 for the main dish. Once confirmed, the kitchen prepares the appetizer first, while the main course remains on hold. When the guests are ready, our waiter simply clicks Fire Course 2. Instantly, the kitchen display updates, and the main dish is ready to be cooked. As it's summer, we have several students working at the restaurant. We've given them minimal access rights so that they can't perform sensitive actions such as open POS sessions, perform cash-in or cash-out operations, apply discounts, and so on. Did you know Odoo prints and delivers your QR codes for free? I only had to create my table plan, click Get QR Codes, and then choose the design I wanted. Those QR codes lead to our mobile menu, where customers can order to dine in, takeout, or delivery. Our customer can see allergen information directly under each menu item. All we have to do is add the allergens to the product description, and they'll appear clearly on our menu. Our customer chooses a burger combo. They pick a cheeseburger, a Coke, and here they can select up to 2 sauces, one being free. With this new feature, you can specify how many items your client can choose in a specific combo, and if some of them are given for free. Now, all the client has to do is pay online, choose their table, and the order is ready to be brought to her. And they can even download her receipt if needed. Someone calls to book a table. We'll just specify a name, date, time, and number of people, and the booking goes straight to the waiting list. Switching to Kanban, we can update the customer's status once they arrive. Then, we just have to drag and drop the customer and assign him to the correct table. When a walk-in customer arrives, we can instantly create a new order. If they want a table, we simply select Set Table and assign the right one. If they're at the bar, we can click Set tab, enter their name, and start adding items. When it's time to pay, we follow the usual checkout process. And the receipt number automatically becomes the order reference in the orders list. Of course, our retail store runs on Odoo point of sale too. These quick payment buttons allow me to process any payment in just one click. Let's see how our company is faring. I'll just type my request, and Odoo AI delivers the exact view I asked for. And when I insert it in a spreadsheet, I can open the command palette with the Command+K shortcut and change my data with new charts, such as radar, geo, sunburst, and tree map charts. This is ideal for hierarchical data with multiple categories. There's all sorts of nifty little tricks available, like collapsing rows and columns in dynamic pivots tables, filter numbers by criteria, and pin side panels, which allows me to work simultaneously in different panels. And these spreadsheets are fully usable on mobile devices. And when I import records, like contacts, for example, Odoo now shows me the newly imported items right away. From there, I can use the breadcrumb to return to my full list. This makes it easier to understand exactly which records were added or updated. To comply with the new EU regulations, I'm using Odoo's new ESG app. I just download the international databases and get access to emissions factors for thousands of items. This covers everything, from printer paper to raw materials, like steel. For example, this laptop we purchased for all of our employees has a carbon footprint of 156 kilograms of CO2 equivalent. And now, every laptop purchase has its footprint calculated automatically, and this is done for all of our purchases. So our carbon footprint is always up to date as all data is synced in real time, and we can export it in just one click. Okay, let's take a look at our team. I can now look back at any employee's previous period and job position. Let's add a new period starting on the 1st of October, so I can give her a well-deserved raise. Now, let's take a look at her work entries. This table instantly shows who's present, on leave, working from home, and more. For Audrey, I'll just select her entire line and set it to attendance. And as I know she was sick from the 11th to the 15th, I'll just mark it as sick leave. This easy pay runs menu allows me to process payroll steps with just a click. And of course, we can't forget to talk about Odoo's industry modules. With over 100 customized databases, whatever your line of work, Odoo has a tailored solution for you. Whether you're a beverage distributor managing inventory, a real estate agency connecting buyers and sellers, a law firm requesting documents from clients, a clothing store adding countless items to your database, A bar keeping purchases simple, a brewery invoicing with excises, a wellness center booking client appointments, a fitness club offering flexible subscriptions, a toy store building an online presence, a construction firm preparing complex quotes, or anything else. Odoo's got something for you. Go to odoo.com today and level up your business with Odoo 19.
What does it take to disrupt an industry? What does it take to disrupt the software industry? An industry growing and evolving so quickly. Is it time? Is it money? Is it innovation? Is it a great product? Does it take blunt recklessness or careful consideration? What about having vision, passion, and dedication? What about breaking the rules? It takes all of that. But above all, it takes a vibrant community. A community of dedicated and creative people. A community with unparalleled ingenuity and efficiency. From manufacturing industries to service industries. From field services to accounting firms. From retail to e-commerce. From NGOs to education. From small companies to large corporations. Together, we move mountains. This is what makes Odoo unique. A passionate community. Millions of open source developers, partners, and users working together towards a common goal. Making companies a better place, one app at a time. This is how we improve everyone's work life. This is how we give people the tools to do more in less time. This is how, as a community, we disrupt industries. So it's no surprise that we all gather year after year to discuss our future. Thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Odoo founder and CEO, Fabien Pincars.
Welcome to this Thursday of Odoo experience. I hope you enjoyed the first 2 days. We still have one full day of learning, experience, networking, everything. Today's keynote is a little bit different. It's the first time I do that. We used to do keynote about the product and the strategy of Odoo, but today's keynote is about how we scale our company. So it's not going to be about Odoo, it's going to be about how you can scale your business, learn how to grow. So I'm going to try to teach you in 1 hour everything I learned over the past 20 years. So I hope you're ready, because it's not going to be easy. But before I start, I have to set my credibility, because you probably won't trust me when I will say a few things that will probably seem very crazy to you. So first, I should show you that. That was the growth of Odoo over the past years. And as you can see, it worked. So we went from 1 to 6,500 employees today. And the revenue grew the same way because we are self-financed. But the thing is, when you look at the number, it's easy to see that it grows like that. But when you look at the number, it's actually a growth of close to 50% per year, year after year. So the result you have that is not like Odoo exploded at one time. It's just the result of every year, year after year, keeping a good execution, focus on the work in order to retain a 50+% growth. The average growth over the past 20 years is actually 66%. And because of that, we created a company where we only funded 10 million euros, 3 million in 2010 and 7 million in 2014, for a valuation today of 7 billion euros. So we can say we build value. And I believe... but I think you should applaud yourself, because it's also part and due to most of you in the room. I mean, we are here because our partner succeeded. Odoo succeed only because their partner succeed. For us, we get richer if the partner gets richer, so I'd like to thank you too. All right, that was probably my last slide about Odoo, so let's talk about leadership, management, and company culture. So when you see the numbers like that, when you see Odoo that is a big success, most people would think about how it's because of Odoo, it's because they did a big innovation, but it does not apply to me. So I like to remind that it actually takes a lot of time. It's normal that your company is small or grows slower because it took time. So let me show how it started with Odoo. First year, in 2002, I was alone. Second year, 2003, I was alone. Third year, 2004, we were 2 people. So I had 1 employee. Fourth year, 2005, we were 6 people. And I like to explain that, because sometimes I see startup founders telling me, oh, my company doesn't work, it's not evolving enough, the things doesn't work, and I'm asking them, how many are you? We are 10. How long? 3 years. I mean, you have been 2 times faster than me. So it's okay. It takes time to build up long things. And I like to remind that, because when you see Odoo today, most people think it's not possible. But you should remind yourself that it started like that. And then it started to grow. We went to 9, then 100 in 2010 after 8 years. Then we grew, 6,000 people, 6,500 today. But it took 20 years, so it's okay to take time if you improve every year. So it's not like we have been slow. We grew 50% plus year after year. But 50% of 1, it's 1.5. And then 2.25. So it just takes time. But you have to improve every year. So it doesn't mean we are slow. We are really fast. We continuously improve, fix things, make better. And we capitalize on everything we do so that year after year the company gets better and improves. And this is the way I see the business. For me, the business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I think it's very important, it's part of the success of Odoo, we think for the long term. It has always been the success of Odoo to think about the long term. So even though we were losing clients sometimes or didn't get enough revenue sometimes, we were continuously focusing on improving the product. But because the product lasts for the long term. A client you sign today will generate revenue that will help you for 2 to 3 months. But what we build in the product, we could capitalize on it. It's like compound interest. It grows and grows and grows and grows, and you can build something for the long term on top of that. It's one of the reasons why we don't have a newsletter at Odoo. A lot of companies tell me, come on, you are 6,500 employees, you don't even have a newsletter. You don't have a blog. We don't have a blog. Why? Because blogs and newsletters are for the short term. A news is something that is interesting when we release it. 3 months after, nobody cares, they know already. So instead of focusing on building things for the short term, like newsletters and blogs, what we do is to invest things in the long term. We build documentation for the product. We improve the product. So my marketing team spend more time developing training material on Odoo rather than writing blogs and newsletters, because long term is always more important than short term. When we build a training material like a video on e-learning, this video is actually used for 2 to 3 years, depending on the version if it gets outdated. When you do a newsletter, it's useful for 3 months. And so it's okay to take time, it's okay to think, but if everything you do, you capitalize for the long term, then you get this compound interest and you can have a company that really grows. All right, so now how do we do to grow? What did we do to make this start? And it's all about execution. I mean, we didn't have any idea to do. There was plenty of ERPs before us. There was plenty of business apps before us. There was open source software before us. So it's not like we had a genius idea. We just did something that we already had thousands of software. But we did it better. The execution was better. How do we do that? It starts by the core business model. For us, as a product company, it's the product. If you are a service company, it's the service. So one thing we did well is to continuously invest in our product. Continuously invest is what is your core business. If you are a service company, your service should be better and better and better every year. Your implementation methodology should be fine-tuned year after year. You should serve your client better year after year, get more experience, train better your employees. If you are a product company like us, the product should continuously improve year after year. How do we do that? And it's, for me, that's something I thought since the beginning, is that at the end, You know, Odoo has always been the smallest, the latest ERP on the market, the cheapest ERP on the market, the company the least funded on the market. We only had 10 million euros, the competitors had billions. But I was convinced on one thing. At the end, the best product always wins. And I was so convinced about that everything we did was to build the product, improve the product. And it turns out that I was right. At the end, it's because of the product that we are here today. And nothing matters more than the product for a product company. If you're a service company, it's one thing matters more than your service. If you're manufacturing tables, nothing matters more than your tables. And why do I say that? Because even today, we have 6,500 employees, I still spend 50% of my time on the product. And I like to remind that because I see a lot of CEOs going to lunch with clients, going to after-work parties, going to social clubs with other directors. That's not making your company become better. What makes your company become better is to work on the core business. For me, it's the product. So I spend 50% of my time on the product. I can show you my calendar after if you want. It's basically empty because I want to dedicate my time on things that matters. And that's execution and focus. Then we need a product market fit, of course. For me, it has been very difficult because I started as a pure open source. That's my passion. Open source is what I like to do. So we started as a pure open source product. But it turns out that it being fully open source is basically impossible to have sustained revenues in order to finance this large research and development that we wanted to do. So we had to find a product market fit. And something I undervalued is that the pricing is way more complex than what we think. But the pricing is key on everything. For any business model, the pricing is so impactful. It can grow your revenue to 50%, 100% more, or 30% less if your pricing is not perfect. So for the old partners in the room, you probably remind the days of Odoo where we were changing the pricing every year. And partners were complaining every year because change is not easy. When you pitch something to a client, then we switch. But for 10 years, we have experienced with the pricing year after year after year. And some of the worst decision I did was actually a pricing decision. It was, at the time, we did the number of users times the number of applications you use equal a specific price. It was very bad, did not work well. We probably spent 1 year in the development of the company. And one of the best decisions I did was also the pricing. It was 3 years ago when we switched to this pricing where you have 20 euro for all applications, no extra, nothing. The best decision we did because we get 2.8 times more customers from 1 month to another when we did that. At a lower price, of course, because we reduced our price, but we increased the volume massively. So pricing is super important, and it's extremely difficult to make it right, so it requires for you to have a focus on that and experiment on that. And one of the mistakes as a service company, because I started as a service company I did at the beginning, was my price was too low. I still see service company today with pricing too low. So there is a basic rule in terms of for service company in terms of pricing. If you are overloaded, increase your price. As long as you are overloaded, it means you can increase a little bit your price, and so you can test until you get the right price. So the business model is critical. It took me 10 years to get it right, to move from a pure open source, then we went to maintenance and support. Did not work well. People were using Odoo, but after 1 year they said, oh, why should I pay the maintenance and the support? It just works. And then we had to move to the current business model, which is an open core business model. 80% is open source, 20% is for a fee, and the 20% for a fee finance the whole ecosystem. But it took me 10 years, so it requires also a lot of focus to every day thinking about what's wrong, what should I change. I remember at the time we were, after every business day, we were walking in the neighborhood with my wife, and every day I was telling her something wrong, something wrong. The business model is not wrong. And every day for 10 years, maybe not 10 years, but 5 years at least, we were asking ourselves what's not good, what's not good. And I refused myself to change the business model because I was passionate about open source. But at some point, after having close to 7 years close to bankruptcy, I had to change, and it actually turns out to be the best decision I did in terms of business model. So sometimes it requires that we do things that we are not comfortable with. Next, it's also easier to be different than to be better. And if you look at Odoo experience, you can clearly see it. It's not the traditional corporate event. I don't think we are better than SAP or Microsoft in terms of organizing event. But one thing is sure, we are different, and people love us for that. And so it's okay to be different. So the idea we have today is we invent where we are very good. So we have things in the product where we are extremely good innovation, then we invent. There are things where we are not, like when we launched payroll or accounting, we were not expert in payroll or accounting. But in that time, then you have to copy, and we copy the best software. So you have to do a good mix, and don't try to invent everything, because you are not the best on everything, probably. All right, about fundraising. When you grow a company very quickly, at some point you will need cash. So what do you need to know about fundraising to do some fundraisings? First, for me, fundraising is not an objective. A lot of companies see that as the objective, like I get 5 million euros, it means I have success. It's not an objective, it's a mean to an end. You should only do it if you need it. And not if you need cash, but if you need it to perform something to make the company become better. Otherwise, it means if you just do it because you need cash, it means you have an issue, it's better to work on your issue. Because fundraising will make things even more complex. The margins will decrease once you raise funds, because you will have a lot of money, start increasing your costs, because you get more comfortable, and so margin will decrease. So if you have an issue, it's better to work on the issue first. And the thing I learned about fundraising, my 2 fundraising I did was quite bad in terms of valuation. The key for any fundraising is the timing. And it's actually the key for most negotiation. Timing is super important. The key is to do it when you don't need money, when you feel comfortable to negotiate, and when you are at the top of a curve so that you can negotiate well and convince investors. And that's really important to think about, because it sometimes means you should do it 2 years before or 2 years later. But the key in any negotiation is the timing, especially in fundraising. The thing to know too is fundraising as a cost. A lot of people see that as money you get for the company. But one thing you should keep in mind is that the shares that you sell are the only thing, as the company grows, that you won't be able to buy back. Why? Because if the company grows, the company will get richer, so you will have more cash, you can buy more and more things. But the only thing you will never be able to buy back, or at least it's extremely difficult, is the share, because the richer you get, the more expensive the share grows, because the share grows with the revenue of your companies, the share price. So it's important for me to do it if you need it. So for us, we did it every time we needed to do a pivot, and not because we needed cash. The first time we did the fundraising was in 2010. At that time, we were a service company, so all our revenue were services. We were developing Odoo, and we were selling service, custom development to clients. And we wanted to switch from a service company to a software vendor. And in order to do that, it would mean that we would stop service activities and give all the service to partners, and we would sell support and maintenance contracts. So as a company, it was super risky, because we would stop all our revenues of services, start selling partnership contracts, and give that revenues to the partners. So in order to do that, we had to raise 3 million euros in 2010 to compensate the fact that this transition will be difficult, raise the partner network, and give them the service on the product. So for that, it's justified to do a fundraising. But if you have a profitability or margin issue, it could be justified as a short-term approach, but it's better to work on your issue first. When things get bad, so shit happens in every company, especially fast-growing companies. You will have situations where it gets very, very hard. For Odoo, I think we have been close to bankruptcy. I mean, in position where I had difficulties to pay the salaries at the end of the month for 7 years. Not 7 years in a row, but in total, I have had 7 years where we were very close to less than 1 month of cash in the bank account. So what do you do when things get bad? Because it happens, it's normal, at least if you are a fast-growing company, what you should do. But first, let me show you the situation of Odoo in 2014. How do I play this video? So that was the cash situation of Odoo 14. So it's the cash based on the months that you see there. Okay. So we raised 7 million euros. So we ended up with 8 million of cash. So we started to recruit developers in order to invest in the product. So our bank account started to decrease. up to a point where we basically had only 2 million of cash. In less than 1 year later, we had 2 million only of cash. So we started to panic because we had a few months of cash available, only 2 months at that time. And you can clearly see that if you continue the curve, it's going to be very negative. And then we started to do a lot of things. New release, we started to push yearly subscription rather than monthly to get cash up front. New business model, that's where we are forced to switch to the Odoo Enterprise business model. And we succeeded to stabilize the cash. And then it started to grow again 2 years later. So how you should react when things happen? First, you have to work on the issues, of course. That's what we did. That's why we started to sell yearly subscription rather than monthly. That's why we switched the business model. That's why we released the Odoo 9, which was a very good version at the time, so we expected that it will bring more customers to us. But then how do you handle that internally? The first thing to do is to do not dismiss employees in waves. So of course, when you are getting very hard, you will need to cut your cost. The worst you can do is to fire a few employees the first month, and then the next month a few more, and the next month a few more. Because then you will destroy the motivation of your team. And they will lose all the trust, you will lose all the trust they have in you. And it's very hard because we are an entrepreneur. And in order to survive as an entrepreneur, we have to be optimist. Most entrepreneurs are very optimistic. And so when you are optimistic, you are like, okay, I will just fire 3 people and it's going to be better. Then you do it, 2 months later, it's not better. Then you'll say, oh, I'll just stop with 5 people and it's going to be better. You do it, 3 months later, it's not going to be better. And the situation gets worse and worse and worse, and at the end, you have to do more. So my suggestion when it happened, and that's what we did at Odoo, we cut once, but hard, something we don't want to do, more to be sure that we keep the company safe for the others that stays at the company. So that's what we did. At some point where we couldn't, I remember it was midnight, I was at home, I tried everything I could, nothing was working, and I started to do a list of the people I would fire, including the number 2 of the company, the one I was working a lot with, simply because he had a too high salary, unfortunately, but I had no other option. And then we cut 30% of the workforce of the company, it was in 2013. And then when that happens, you should absolutely not bullshit the employees. Most directors, they try to convince everybody that it's going to be fine. They try to say, don't worry, we have no issue, no problem. But if you bullshit them and if you make them think that there is no issue, obviously they will notice it, that there are issues, and you will lose all the trust they get in you. So when times get hard, you communicate clearly. That's very important. So you explain, here is what happened, here is the cash we have, here is what we will do, here is the plan, and how we will make it work. And that's what I did. So when I fired the 30%, I explained, here is the plan, we will launch yearly subscription, we'll sell more success pack, we will release the version 9, we cut the cost of our employee by 30%, and together we'll make it work, and the company will survive because of that. And if you communicate clearly, people will follow you, because they need to follow someone they trust. And at the time, I even told them, I'm sorry, but for 1 or 2 years, I won't be able to increase salaries. And you know what? The salaries were not very good at that time at Odoo, because we couldn't afford, unfortunately. And you know what? Nobody left the company. They all said, okay, we'll work hard, we'll make it work, because I've been clear and transparent to them. So they all saved the company, stayed and worked very hard to be sure that during this period, we stabilized everything. If I would have said the opposite and make them think, don't worry, everything's fine, they will have noticed on your face that you are stressed, that there are issues, that sometimes you fire a few people. So you cannot bullshit, you have to be transparent. One thing I learned is that from the moment you have no cash to the bankruptcy, you have 2 years. So it's at the same time long and short. 2 years is okay, you can always push back on social security, push back on supplier invoice, you can always make some customer pay before. So if you push on everything, you can survive easily. So 2 years is good. It makes time. You have time to do things. But at the same time, it's short, because if you have profitability issues, it's because something's wrong in your product or in your business model or others, and so you have to fix it. And in order to do a full pivot in a company, 2 years is short. So you have time, but still you have to move fast because 2 years is not that. And these years are difficult, so the shorter you make them, the better it is. Difficult for everyone. But then, the thing to keep in mind, because when things get hard, it's very hard. Mentally, you don't sleep a lot, you have a lot of stress. The thing to keep in mind is that your difficult times will actually become your key competitive advantage. If Odoo is what it is today, if we have a team of people collaborating that work hard, if we have a low cost of operation, we do everything ourselves at Odoo experience, we build this mindset when the times get tough. It's at that time that we build the company culture that we have today. So this is not that bad, actually. It's difficult to manage, but having tough time is actually okay. If you give too much cash to a company, never ever they will become very efficient. They will burn more and more, and they will create this mindset of having a lot of expense, but they won't be the efficiency of a company that had to survive for a few years. So the good thing about these difficult times is that it will make you stronger. And I used to say that every company, fast-growing companies at least, they will have difficulties, and the difference between a successful and an unsuccessful company is just that the former survived when things get tough. All right, let's talk about execution. Because execution is key. A lot of people think that the most important is the idea or the business model. These are important, business model important. ID is a little bit important, but not that much. I mean, we do something extremely boring, accounting, that a lot of people were doing before, so we had no specific ID, nothing. It's just that we executed better than the others. So first, execution, it starts with the company and executive focus. What do I mean by focus? Focus is focusing the whole company on something. Let me give you an example. 10 years ago, Odoo was what we call a native client. So you had to install a GTK client, for the ones who remember, of Odoo on the computer of every user, and it was not web-based. And then, obviously, we had to switch to a web-based application because web was the future, and we had to switch to that. Pretty much none company have succeeded to go from a rich client to web-based. All the web-based players have started web-based. All the ones that were with rich client probably failed in the process. And we succeeded. We moved very quickly from a rich client that we had to install to a web-based application. And that changes everything. The UX had to be different, the technology is different. It's not anymore about Python, it's about JavaScript. The UX, user experience, is different. Instead of having pop-ups and buttons, you have sleek web page. So everything has to change. And how do you focus the full company on do that? And the reason why we succeeded, and we did it in 1 year, is because we focused the full company on that project. How do you do that? You tell people what they cannot do. Because in every company, everybody has a lot of work. So they already have a lot of tasks. And if you tell them your priority is to go web-based, they will do 10% more of work for the priority, but they cannot do more than that because they are already full of things. They have clients, they have requests, they have the day-to-day job. So you just add up something to what they have when you tell them the priority is this. But when you say you cannot do that anymore, you reduce their workload, and then that leaves time to what's important. So instead of saying to the team, your priority is web-based, which probably would not have worked, we'll tell them you cannot develop a single feature. The only thing you can do is web, go from the web. I don't want to see any single feature in Odoo. No more new feature for at least 1 year. And when you do that, you cut everything. They come with customer ID, think, no feature, no feature, no feature. You reduce their burn rate, their load, so that they can focus on what matters. So the best way to focus is just to know what you should not do. And I think it's also the difference between key leaders or managers and the others is that everyone has ideas. Every director or manager can tell you what to do. They will tell you, we should do this, we should do that. Only the best can tell you what we should not do. The best leader, they focus on things we should not do in order to prioritize the things that are more important. Then, in the execution, what matters is to keep things simple. You know, we have 6,500 employees, but we have only one product. We only have 2 ways to deliver the product, Odoo Online and Odoo SH. We basically have 3 departments, sales, R&D, and services. We have a bit of HR and so on, but basically this, and it's replicated in every company. So we made everything simple at Odoo. Our product is simple, our company is simple, but we also execute simply. For instance, at Odoo, there is no planning, no budget, no recurring meeting, no validation process, or no decision process. We have a legal department of one person, since a few months there are two, but we have 2 people in the legal department. For a company of 6,500 employees with 18 subsidiaries operating in 180 countries, it's quite efficient. So we have all the customers on the same contract, pretty much no exception in our pricing, no exception in our SLA of the support. We support every customer the same way. Even our internal support, they operate the same way than with partners or customers. So we focused a lot on making things simple. Our contracts are short. Odoo Enterprise is only 8 pages. Most companies have contracts with 30, 40 pages. But you know, when a contract is read by thousands of clients every day and negotiated with lawyers, it's better to make it short. So we focus on everything to make it simple. When I say no meeting, it's no recurring meeting. I don't like managers that manage by meeting. I believe if you need to communicate information, just send an email or a message and discuss, but you don't need a meeting to manage your team. Of course, we do meetings, so we work together on something, but if it's recurring, it means that you do management by meeting, that is bad. So we have no recurring meeting to do. No budget, everyone can decide, because if you give a budget to someone, he will just use it, and he loses the responsibility of deciding if it's worth it or not. So even the marketing who's spending millions on billboards, I refuse to give them a budget. Sometimes new juniors marketing come to me and say, how much can I spend? Is it 1 million, 2 million? I refuse to answer. I mean, you compute, you do the math, you check, and if it's a good return on investment, you spend a lot. If it's not, you spend a little. But if you don't find something at 1 CPM, €1 per 1,000 views, if your billboards are much higher than that, your budget is 0. I don't want you to spend money because the return on investment is not good. But in the opposite, if you have a 0.5 CPM, which is very good on a country that we want to develop, go for it. Maybe you can put 2-3 millions. But you can only reach this level of efficiency where employees decide themselves, spend smartly from 0 to a lot, if they have no budget. As soon as you give them a budget, you lose every reflection. They don't act smartly. Once you have done that, the execution, you also need a strong vision. So the vision is different from one company to another. For us, it has always been the value for the money. That's the 2 things that drove most of the decision at Odoo. We wanted to increase the value and decrease the total cost of ownership for the client. And since the past 20 years, our focus has always been to do that. So value is obvious. It's all the applications of Odoo. We want all these applications to be better, have a bigger value, more application, cover all the needs of companies. And that's the value. But you also have the value of the service, how we deliver the service. It has to be clean, fast, in an efficient way. And the value of the salespeople. When you get the sales on the phone, you feel like it provides value to you. That's things we have worked a lot over the past years. Sales is interesting. For instance, most companies, if you check with Oracle, NetSuite, Microsoft, and so on, they have 4 different people just to sell. They have the SDR, Sales Development Representative, whose goal is to get meeting. Once you have a meeting, you have the salesperson that will do the meeting with you. But then when you need a demo of the product, you have a technical sales, the guy who can do a demo. And then you have the partner who can negotiate the price, because the salesperson doesn't usually have the right to negotiate the price. 4 people just to get a meeting, to get a sale. At Odoo, it's completely different. One sale does everything. He do the SDR, he do the meeting, he do the demo, he make an offer, he negotiate the price, they can do everything. And that, for me, is value for the customer. When you work with small and mid-sized companies, you want someone in front of you who can make a demo, knows the product, knows the business, make you an offer on the spot, negotiate with you. You don't want a long process with first you get qualified and then you have a discussion with a salesperson who don't know the product, and then you need to insist to get a technical sales, and then you need to escalate to a partner in order to have a good price. We scrap all of that, we make things simple so that the value is better. And obviously the value is the integration, so that you can replace all these applications with one platform, you know that. And the other one is the TCO. You have for years, we still have a price which is much, much lower than the traditional ERPs. But it's also, the total cost of ownership includes also the cost of the service. That's why we developed the Quick Start implementation service, is to be sure we can deliver projects in less hours. And part of our service activities has been that. I always judge them on how fast they can implement customer and not on how much they can charge to customer. Because if you start to focus on how much we can charge to customer, you focus on selling more hours for the job. And actually, the performance of the service is to deliver the same service in less time. And because we did that, we succeeded to increase the volume. Because our quality of service was better, the volume went with it. So that's everything we did over the past 2 years. And because the vision was strong, value for the money, 3 years ago, we had to change the pricing. When we changed this pricing, we lost 80 million euros from one day to another. And it was a time where every software vendor were increasing the price. So we reduced the price, we lost 18 million euros. When we discussed that with executive committee and board member, everyone said, yeah, obvious, we should decrease. Why? Because our vision was clear. But good luck to go to a board and say we will reduce our recurring revenue by 18 million because we think we should decrease the price, especially in an inflation time where everybody is increasing the price. For us, it was obvious because we are perfectly aligned with the strategy. So the role of the CEO. As the company grows, the role of the CEO will change. At the beginning, the CEO, or would say the owner, the founder, or the director, his goal is to do everything. And so he's working with the team, hands-on, taking every decision. And it's important because by doing that, he shapes the people that are working with him. So it's an important step. But the more you grow, the more your role becomes communication. It's not anymore bottom-up, it's top-down. So you need to be clear and communicate efficiently so that at that time, it's not you that decides everything, it's the people in the company, middle managers, or the people who execute. So the role is to be clear that they understand the vision, the strategy, that everybody's aligned, so that everyone takes decision in the right direction. So as the more you grow, the more CEO means Chief Explanatory Officer. And not someone who lunch a lot with other CEOs. Why do I say that? Because I believe that your company, as a CEO, needs you more than the customer, the project, the conference, or the social clubs. The only way to make your company grow is to focus on your company. That's why I spend most of my time, I never go to lunch with a client, I don't work on project. Unless I want to learn something, then I will meet the customer just to learn his business. What I do, I work on the product 50% of my time, and the other 50% internally with my employees to make every department become better. We fix bottlenecks so that everything gets better. And that's focus, and I believe a lot of companies should do that more. All right, recruitment. In order to build a great company, you need great people. So the first mistake I see, so we train all your recruiters. The first mistake I see is that people assess competencies rather than knowledge or capabilities to learn. So I think it's key when you recruit to assess and evaluate people from what they can do rather than what they know. Otherwise, people will appear better to you just because they did it before. So if you ask questions like, what would you do in that case or in that type of situation? If it's someone who is new from university, he doesn't know. If it's someone who lived the situation, he will tell you the answer. Does it mean it's better? No. Maybe he was in a company that did it, but he was the worst of the team. So what we do, we assess if they are smart enough to understand. So we ask questions to make them think, rather and check if they can learn, rather than checking if they know. Because knowing is easy, you just have to explain them. So what's important for us, and what we try to avoid when we recruit. So what's key is, for instance, if we recruit a developer, it's to do a development exercise. That's the number one way to qualify him. If it's a salesperson, it's to make a demo. Make a demo of the product, check if you understand the product, if you understand the business, is comfortable with IT. If it's a consultant, we'll make him do a demo, but we'll ask him to think about the business flow. We have this kind of company, and we try to have a business flow that he doesn't know. If he's specialist, if he already worked in the food industry, we'll ask him something about the consultancies. If he worked in consultancy industry, we'll ask him a question about the food industry. Why? Because we want to check how we think, not if he knows. Because that's where you define the right ones or not. IQ and logic tests are very efficient. It's actually the second best predictive KPIs we have on the performance of an employee in the future. So we have measured that on 10,000 people. We have done all these tests, and then we have measured the correlation of these tests based on what if they've been employed by Odoo, and after that, if they exceed expectation 1 or 2 years as an employee in our system. What I noticed is the first best KPI to predict the successfulness of someone is the competency of the job. A developer to make him develop, a consultant to make him think about a business case, a salesperson to make him do a demo. That's the best way that's the first best predictive KPI of someone. The second is the logic and IQ test. A lot of people disagree with that, but I have numbers, and we have done that on tens of thousands of people. It really is. The capability to think, rational thinking, is super important. And these are important. We should do more of this. And the thing that I try to avoid is questions like what is the sales cycle? How long is the sales cycle in your... There is no value in that. So if it's a newbie, he won't know, and you will disqualify him for a bad reason. Maybe he's super smart. If it's a salesperson who has 5 years experience, he will answer correctly. Maybe he's super bad, you don't know. So that kind of question doesn't help you assess people. Or questions like, explain the benefits of an ERP, explain your past experience. What are your strengths or weaknesses? Describe your best achievement. What would you do in that situation? I train my people to avoid this question. You should stop that. And I really mean avoid. Because at the end, what I noticed with recruiter is they judge people based on the time they spent on each question. So even though you can do both, if you do both, you will judge the person 50% on one and 50% of the other task. So it's better to just do the test that is extremely relevant. Your assessment will be more efficient. Especially for the logic test, which is very important, IQ and logic test. It's a very important test to qualify candidates. The problem is that we give them a test, they have 30 minutes to do it, HR do the correction, and then the interviewer just get the result. It was 86%. And so people spend 0 time on this test, and then when they had to assess the candidate, they didn't use this number in their assessment. So we trained our recruiter to say this test is important, even though you didn't spend time on it, judge based on this and the other test you did. So avoid question to assess experience, because experience doesn't mean the guy is good, it just means that he did it. So avoid question like, what would you do in this situation? What's your biggest failure? What's your biggest success? Describe the process or ask responsibilities you had in the past job. Doesn't mean he's good, but maybe he was in a team that performed well, but he was the worst of the team. So how do we assess competency? If we check if he's smart, IQ test. We check if he can do a demo. We ask him to do a demo in Odoo. We let him think about the business process. We ask him, you are in the food industry, you have to deliver Carrefour. Explain me what is the process. What are the steps? Do you do a sale order, then delivery order, the quotation, invoice? Do you invoice after the sale order or before the sale order? And you ask, and you make him think about it. And you try to do something that he doesn't know just to check if he's capable of thinking. Don't expect a specific answer, just check if he's logic in his thinking. Can he call a lot? Sometimes we do that, we make him call, do cold calling. Is he a good developer? Make him develop for 1 hour. Can he learn something? So that's the things that are important. Now you have recruited people, you also need to learn to fire people. First, especially if you start, there is a large chance, at least it was my case, that you will fail your first recruitment. Recruitment is very hard. It's very complex to make it hard, and a lot of people who think they can recruit actually can't. And because we are all optimistic when it fails, we usually act too late. At least for me, at the beginning, I always took 1 or 2 years too much, which is very negative. So I think one of the best advice is to fire quickly. And it's important because the environment we built at Odoo, the culture we have, is exceptional. You probably have seen at Odoo experience, we all help each other, we work hard. I believe we have a very, very, very strong company culture. So for me, it's key to preserve that. And the best way to preserve that is to fight to keep it as we grow and to be sure that we don't keep people who try to reduce that or to impact negatively this. I think it's also important for the team. You know, there is a saying that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So everybody wants to work with smart people. So letting someone who is very bad in a team will actually affect the team. So it's hard to fire someone, but it's even harder to make the team live with him. And smart people want to work with smart people. So I do believe that it's our duty to offer a great working environment to our colleagues, and that's the kind of the reasoning I use to make them think, okay, I don't want to fire someone, but probably it's necessary because of them, in order to help them. So we have a saying at Odoo is that when there is a doubt, there is no doubt. What it actually means is that we are all optimistic. We want to make it work. We don't judge people usually. So when we get to the point where we are thinking, oh, it doesn't work with this guy, it doesn't work, it's probably because it's already too late. Because we are so optimistic, we don't want to do that we try to push back, but we get to the point of saying, no, maybe it's probably that we should have acted already. All right, being a team leader at Odoo. I used to say that people at Odoo are not managers, including myself, we are team leaders. I do prefer to have leaders rather than managers. So what we say to every team leader is that we expect you to lead by example, but not to manage the team. I don't want people managers. I do want people that are leaders, that show how to do and work with you hands-on. So for me, the role of a team leader, and I will start by the things to avoid. I don't want a team leader to do planning, budget, control, KPIs on team, reporting to the upper level, recurring meeting, that's bad. That's what I don't want team leaders to do. I don't want to spend time on that. They are not administrative. I mean, team leaders are your best employees. Why would you let them do administrative tasks? And those are all administrative tasks. What we expect from a team leader is one thing only. Is you get a team, your only job is to make this team become better. To work with them so that they learn from you, they love their job, they work better, they are more productive. And in order to do that, you have to remove the burden of the management from them. No controlling, no KPIs, no planning, no budget, no recruitment. Remove everything from a team leader so that he can focus on what he does best, make the team become better. And I do believe that the best team leaders, they are at the service of the team, and it's not the other way around. It's not the team that is at its own service. So that's key for me for team leader. And if you look at how we are team leader at Odoo, that they all have very much hands-on in that direction. So this is some of the slides I use every year when I train all team leaders. Or something I like is that a lot of people think that micromanagement is bad. And I do agree, micromanagement is bad. But micro-review, going to the details of some issues, is very good actually to me. And I do prefer that rather than macro management. The worst you can have is macro management. So don't be afraid to micromanage, but be afraid of not being helpful to the team. Let me explain this with a graph. Imagine that on the x-axis, you have the number of people or projects that you manage. You can manage 10 people, 20 projects, that many tasks. That's the x-axis. And then on the y-axis, the implication you have on every project or person. You can spend a lot of time with someone or for a specific project or a limited number of time. Obviously, your number of hours per day, per week is limited. You can work 50 hours, maybe less, maybe more, I don't know, but your number of hours per day is limited. So the number of people times the time you spend with them is actually a fixed number of hours. So the question is, how do you spend your time? And there are two ways to do it. The managers, they will try to supervise everything. So they will try to know everything, to know every single project, to know every person. So they will do status meeting. Where are you? What are you doing? What's the status of this task? That's the typical manager. They are on every project, every people try to be aware of something. And when they are not aware of something, when they discover an issue and they were nowhere, they are not happy about it. I don't want that. We don't want managers at Odoo. What we want is leaders. And for me, the leaders, they do the opposite. They choose the project of the people who need them more. Could be people that need to be trained, could be projects that are in difficulties, could be bottleneck for the growth of the company. So they choose a few ones that will have the most impact for the company, and they really go into deep in that in order to fix things. And their goal is every week they fix a few things, help the person or the project to do. And when you do that, the only way to do that, because your time is limited, is to accept to don't spend time at all on the rest. And the rest, trust your team, let them do, you accept, but when you have an issue, when they need you, then you go deep and you fix the issue with them, which means controlling and understanding every single detail. And that's what we expect from leaders, from them to be able to be hands-on and help the team. So how do you find these people? How do we promote team leaders at Odoo? So first, we never promote manager. I don't promote people who want to manage people. I promote the best of the team. So we promote people that are so good at the job that they have things to teach to the team. So for me, the only way to be a team leader of a development team is to be the best developer. I don't care if you are good at doing planning and budget and KPIs. That's what we expect from a team leader. So if you want to be team leader of the development team, you have to be the best developer. Why? Because how can you help a development team if you are not better than them? I mean, how can you be useful to them if you're not? Okay, you can train them to do some budget and KPI and running, but we don't care. We want them to become better at their job. That's what matters for a team leader. So at Odoo, we only do internal promotion. We never ever recruit external director. The only way to be a team leader or a director at Odoo is to start from the bottom, become the best, and promote internally. The only way. So every team leader you have seen, that's what they did. Started from the bottom, best of the team, so they grew that way, so that they can teach the team. Or another tip is try to avoid people who have too much ego. That kills team spirit. And in addition to helping the team get better, we have another thing that we teach team leader. They are the guardians of the culture. At the beginning, the culture is defined by you, the CEO. When you have 10 to 20 employees, the culture is what you do is who you are. It's the way you behave that defines the culture of the company. But the more you grow, the less the culture is you, the more the culture of the company is how the team leaders act with their team. So they have also a very important role to play in terms of preserving the culture of the company. For instance, for us, what's part of the culture, at least the HR culture of Odoo, there are 3 things that we train them on that are very important to me. It's we want everyone at Odoo to have autonomy, responsibilities, and evolution. And we do a lot of things to improve these 3 things. And it's not obvious. I mean, I'm pretty sure every company says that. Every company says we do autonomy, responsibilities, evolution. But we really do it. And let me explain you a few examples. How do you teach autonomy? The problem with autonomy is that schools, they kill autonomy. When you have people coming out of the schools, they have no more autonomy at all. They have to follow very strict courses, do their homework, deliver the thing, everything. They probably lost every autonomy. So you have to teach them back how to become autonomous. Let's give me an example. Let's say you have a salesperson who comes to your office and say, I want to buy a barcode scanner because I need to do a demo for a client. I need this barcode scanner to do a demo for the client. And I want to buy that. Can I do it? How would you answer that? Yes, no, other? Nobody wants to say something? If it's justifiable, yes? My advice is to not answer that. My advice is to say, you are an adult. A barcode scanner, I don't know how much it costs, maybe 50 euro. That's the kind of decision you can take. Because if you answer yes, you can do it, it will ask you for every single decision, can I do that? If you answer no, same thing. It will ask you for every single decision, can I do that? So as a team leader, you should learn to delegate that reflection to them and say, no, I mean, you are an adult. You buy a house, you buy cars. You know if it's worth it to buy a barcode scanner. If they really don't know, you ask them, what would you do? If they really don't know, you can help them and say, okay, what's the value of the client? What percentage of chance do you expect to win it? So is it worth it compared to the value of the client? And you decide. But our first reflex is to help people, but sometimes it's good not to help them, but to force them to decide. Responsibilities, you have seen the company we have is quite young, a lot of young people. They all have responsibilities, whether it's for organizing this event, distributed hundreds of responsibilities. For project manager, when someone starts at Odoo, he becomes quickly a project manager. He gets his own client, so he can decide directly. And for evolution, we do a lot of things at Odoo, training, give a lot of responsibilities, force them to do webinar, to organize activities like this in Odoo Experience, to be sure they evolve fast. And these 3 things are the most important for me in terms of culture. And sometimes people ask me, but is the culture different from one country to another? And actually, no. These are universal people stuff. Everybody, whatever the country, they want autonomy, they want responsibilities, and they want evolution. Obviously, in some countries, they are used to less. Like in India, they are used to less autonomy. Hierarchies are very strong in India. It's part of their culture. But still, if you give them autonomy, they will like it like everybody else. So it's always good to focus on that. And the culture is not the table tennis or the food you give to your employees. Huh? That's just good perks. It's good to do it. But it's not the culture. The culture is really what motivates people. And what motivates people is autonomy, responsibilities, and evolution. I teach my team leader to avoid KPIs. I don't like management by KPIs. Like, how do you develop this feature? How do you measure if this feature is wrong? There is no answer to that. The only way to know if a feature is good is to understand the market, talk to the client, check how they use the software, and decide on your own based on that. And I strongly believe that companies that embrace management by KPIs, they slowly drift into more irrelevancy. Because you can make them think whatever you want, this KPI. So I do prefer decision based on common sense rather than decision based on KPIs. How do you develop your common sense? Spend time with your customer. Understand the market, understand the product, sit next to your customer, and decide based on that rather than decide based on a graph. And sometimes you need KPIs, so we have an advantage of using Odoo, where all the data are in Odoo, so it could be useful. And I sometimes have new team leaders that come to me, and I want to measure this, and I want to measure the customer satisfaction. And usually I answer in that way. I tell them, okay, let's do that. Let's imagine that because measuring something costs something. You will annoy your customer with an email that asks him to rate your service, so you annoy them. And then you get this, and then you have to decide what to do with this. So I'll tell them, okay, imagine that we send this email to 100,000 customers. First, we are a good spammer. Then, imagine that this email, you get 7.2 as a result. What would you do differently if it's 7.2 or 8.3? Most of the time, the answer is always the same. We should improve the customer service. And so if the KPI is not actionable, so if you are not capable of saying, if it's this amount, I will do that, and if it's this amount, I will do that, it's probably because it's not worth spending time measuring it. So you can only measure when you can take action based on this KPI. Opening subsidiaries. For me, it has always been about the people. When you want to create subsidiaries, the most important is the people, the director, more than the location. That's why we have an office in Buffalo or in Ahmedabad. Nobody goes to Buffalo and Ahmedabad. But we had the right directors, and that's what matters. If you have the right director, whatever the location, they will make a success. It could be the perfect location. If your director is not correct, the success will be. So why do we have an office in Ahmedabad? Because I wanted to work with Mantavia Gajar, our director in Ahmedabad. He was living in Ahmedabad. He was a student at the time, and me too. Or just graduated, but he was super good. Wanted to work with him because he lived in Ahmedabad. We created a company in Ahmedabad. Turned out to be a very good decision. Retention is good. People are hard workers. They are very business oriented. But if I would have started to think strategically, I would probably have opened the office in Bangalore or Delhi. But no, we went to Ahmedabad because of Mantavia. Why are we in Buffalo? Because Nick was our best salesperson in one of our offices. He wanted to go back to his family in Buffalo. We wanted to do something with him because we wanted to leverage his capabilities. So we said, okay, create an office in Buffalo. Turns out it was a very good decision. The retention is good, salaries are lower, and he could build something big very quickly. And management from the distance doesn't work, so you have to trust the people you send. So what we do, we only create companies with our own employees. We never recruit professional CEOs when you create a new company. I have to move forward because I feel like I'm late. I've said simplicity is key. We have to fight complexity. For me, companies are like software. You have to refactor your company continuously, kill process, stop decisions, stop doing some reporting, because people have a tendency to make things even more complex and complex over time. And I like this quote, especially because it comes from the CEO of SAP, ex-CEO of SAP. If we simplify everything, we can do anything. And I think he's right. They probably don't understand what they said, but they're right. Because as we grow, there is a dark, powerful force that pulls us toward more complexity, more process, less autonomy. Everybody tries to pull to that direction. We have an issue, let's create a control process. And complexity creeps in a lot of things. It could be an overreacting to an issue. We have a problem, someone purchased something we shouldn't do. Let's put a validation process on all purchases. It could be the easy answer to a short-term issue. I couldn't reach my sales quota this month, so I create an exception, do a big discount to a client with a special SLA, and so I can close this deal and reach my quota. A very short-term mindset. But then the company has to live with this specific SLA for 1 year or 2 years with this client. So the thing is, it's easier to add complexity than removing complexity. So I believe we should spend a lot of time killing this complexity, refactoring the company, stopping process, and so on. And the last tip, but if you are here, you probably already get it, use Odoo. And I am serious about it. I strongly believe that having the right tools changes everything, that the impact we have over our users are big. It really transforms companies and helps people be more efficient at work. So I really believe in that. And I don't have time for questions, sorry, but I'm still available for the day. You can meet me in the...